Welcome to Common Sense. Common Sense is a series of shows that feature interviews with interesting people in our area that'll help us to get to know these folks, what they do, and what's making sense to them and what doesn't, in a clear, concise, and direct way. I'm Rudy Breglia. And today I'll be interviewing the generous and well-known and well-traveled author, attorney, actor, and historian, Sherry Spenzer, former person of or Citizen of the Year for Avon Lake 2017. Okay, why don't you start us off, Sherry? Tell us a little bit about your background, where you were born, where you've lived, how you've come to Avon Lake.
All right. Well, I was born in St. Joe's Hospital in Lorain,
okay,
which is no
not
more.
Very far away.
Right, and grew up in Avon Lake. That was my first home. That's where I have spent the vast majority of my life, with the exception of 3 years when I was living in Iowa City, going to school at the University of Iowa.
Okay.
So I am a lifelong Avon Laker.
Okay, well, great. Can you tell us why do you think it's important that people become involved with community activities?
I recently finished a book titled The Tribe, and it's by Sebastian Junger. Have you heard of him?
Okay, yes.
All right. If you haven't read the book, I think you would love it. And it's a quick read, but the entire focus on the book is about community, connection, communication.
Okay.
And he brings home the point that people despise being isolated from one another.
We're social animals.
We are social animals, and didn't COVID bring that point home?
You bet, you bet. Tough getting through COVID.
Yeah.
The isolation itself.
Yeah.
Well, what do you do? How do you define community? People have different definitions, feelings.
They do, but it probably is actually all pretty much the same. I would define it as the place where you live, you work, you play, you try to meet the needs of others who are your neighbors.
Okay.
And you try to derive satisfaction from your contribution and from being a part of that. Okay.
Well, when did you start to want to be to help out in the community? When did that start in your college years, or?
Actually, well, I've always been involved in activities throughout my life, but upon my retirement, that's when I took a keener interest in my community and wanted to find ways to be more a part of the community and to give back. Andrew Carnegie, you know, at the end of his life, gave away 90% of his accumulated wealth. Well, obviously, I don't have that, but no, but I do have, and all of us have, our most precious gift, which is time. And that's what we can give.
Okay. Well, what prepares you to take on these community activities? What do you when looking back, what prepared you?
Well, I think the driving force is a willingness to do it.
Okay.
An interest in your community and the people around you, and a desire to leave your mark, to give something that you hope will be enduring, you hope will be permanent before you depart this planet. Okay.
What do you generally do for the organizations that you're part of? Describe that a little bit.
Okay. Well, those kind of dovetail into the descriptor that you gave of me at the beginning. Writing is a lot of it.
Okay.
I do a lot of articles for our newsletter for Avon Lake Historical Society. I make a contribution to every newsletter, sometimes more than just one article.
Okay.
The acting part, I've stayed involved in acting. I'm in a troupe. It's a group of women called the Ohio President's Wives.
Okay.
And each of us reenacts one of the wives of an Ohio president. I am Lucy Webb Hayes.
Okay, I didn't know you had that.
Yes, and we travel around to different organizations and give this performance. We get donations from the organizations, and all of those donations go for missions work, and we we collectively vote on where we would like to send it, where we would like to share the donations we have received. We also do a program called the Indomitable Women of the 1800s.
Okay.
And for that, I am Mary Edwards Walker, who
I
was
see. So you
the
have
only,
a lot of hats.
I
that you
do,
wear.
only female physician in the Civil War.
All right.
I also do programs for Avon Lake Historical Society, and I've done, we call it Theater of the Dead, which again is theater, it's shows for the community, and it's all about people who are buried in Avon Lake Cemetery.
I see.
Which is a keen interest of mine, a little microcosm of Avon Lake history there.
Okay.
So acting, writing are my favorite. Delivering programs really is essentially acting, so that's why I enjoy doing that as well.
Now, when do these take place? Are they generally advertised through the Historical Society or through the library? You know?
The Historical Society does advertise those programs that will be of benefit to them or that would draw people.
All right.
The individual organizations, they do their own public promotions, and then I do visit other libraries and do programs, and those libraries also do their own promotions.
I got you. Okay. Well, describe the feelings of satisfaction that you get when you work with others on these community activities.
I think affirmation that what you have to offer is worthwhile and is benefiting your community.
Okay.
I think belief in yourself and the fact that you can give something to your community.
Okay.
A deeper connection, definitely.
There you go. There you go. Tell us about some of the activities that you're involved with these Avon Lake organizations. Why don't you start with the Bicentennial Committee that I know you've been part of, and I know they won the Project of the Year, which is great. And tell us about the achievements and the disappointments that have occurred.
Okay. Well, the Bicentennial Committee was a group of 5 of us who, by the end of the year, because we met over a period of a year, were very, very close, because we had spent a lot of time together planning and preparing and working together. As the Bicentennial Committee, we each took on a major project.
Okay.
And we spearheaded our own project, but then, of course, we all helped one another with the projects. My particular projects were the community church choir and bell choir concert that was held at the high school.
Right.
Hike into History, which was through Cop Reservation. And I consider this a huge privilege. I was honored to be the person to write the inscription for the boulder that's behind the Peter Miller House in the Bicentennial Garden.
I've seen that. And what the Bicentennial Committee did was absolutely wonderful, just wonderful for Avon Lake. How are these activities supported generally, with these community organizations?
For the Bicentennial, it was purely community generosity.
Okay.
Businesses in this community were very generous, very big-hearted in the gifts that they gave that enabled us to be able to do some of these things we were doing. And then just individual community members. They have a big heart. They love their community. And when you ask them for help, contribution, they come through.
Forthcoming, yeah. Mm-hmm. Okay. Well, that's wonderful. How can Avon Lakers get involved in the community activities and support these organizations?
Well, there's a contemporary term now that's become very popular, reach out.
Okay.
Do you hear it a lot?
Yeah,
I hear it all the time. But that hits the nail on the head in this instance. I would say reach out. If there's something that you see going on that really captures your interest, your attention, don't hesitate to reach out and say to someone in the organization, I really like what you're doing. I feel I would be good at that. Right, can I help? You can do that person to person, one to one. You can do that through an email, through a phone call, write them a note. Just make it known.
I think sometimes people get scared. Oh, if I get involved, it'll be a lot of time and effort, and they'll give me a lot of work to do, and yet there's all levels of engagement.
They're right. Absolutely.
So don't be scared. That's the
right.
Jump in, both feet.
Be our friend. we're likable. Just come and tell us.
We're not going to bite anybody. Huh? What are your ultimate goals for the involvement with the community activities? What do you see? And I think you've already said this already. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Well, probably the same thing that drives you to do this. We all want to leave a footprint. We all want to leave a legacy. We want to leave our community a little bit better than when we came into it.
Right.
And that's the driving force.
Okay, all right. Tell us about Heritage Avon Lake. I guess I kind of cut you off before, but this is another organization that you're involved in.
It is. That is an organization that has evolved as I have been part of it.
Okay.
It started off as the Avon Lake Historical Society. Then it grew, and Lakeshore Women's Club joined, and the Peter Miller House Museum joined.
Okay.
So now we were all under one umbrella.
Yeah.
Changed the name to Heritage Avon Lake because we're incorporating all these different organizations.
Okay. All right. And there's some of the same people involved in all three.
Yes, but when you join forces, then you got a stronger group.
Understand.
So we were Heritage Avon Lake for a while, and then we discovered that in spite of all the marketing efforts, people really weren't understanding what that meant. Heritage Avon Lake. Some people thought it was a genealogical group. Some people thought I don't know what else they thought they were, but ultimately the decision was made to go back to the name Avon Lake Historical Society. When you hear that,
you know exactly what it is.
You know what it is.
Well, when did your passion for history start?
That was in elementary school.
Wow.
Yeah. Yes.
That was a while ago.
Yeah.
Not that long, but...
Right, no, long enough. We went on a field trip, and funny thing, I can't tell you where we went, but I can tell you that I remember being there, that I internalized so much of what was around me and what we were seeing. I think I was an old soul when I was little.
Okay.
But I remember being in a room that had furnishings and relics that were unique to that time period, and standing there in the room, and it suddenly became very real to me.
Okay.
That centuries ago, people lived here, people touched these things, sat in these
And they were just
chairs.
like me, yeah.
Yes. And then I became, as I got a little older, I became fascinated by survival. How did these people do this?
Right.
You come in a horse-drawn wagon with not much of anything.
No electricity.
Yes, no running water. And somehow built houses, then built roads, built communities. That absolutely intrigued me. But the survival piece, I think, was the part that I always carried with me. As I'd walk through woods, I'd think, so how do you know what to eat and what not to eat?
Right.
How do you know how to skin an animal and cook it and make it edible? It was, and it got me. That's when history just grabbed my attention.
And there's no Google. You can't go on the internet and figure out watch a video on how it's done.
How to barbecue a raccoon.
Yeah, not often. I started out as a history major, and I changed, but certainly that interest in history, seeing how people did things and how they survived. What are the benefits of knowing history? And I always remember that phrase, if you don't know it, you're going to repeat it. What are your feelings about that?
Well, that, and even bigger than that, getting outside of your own head. We're all so internalized and so consumed with our daily lives and the minutia of all kinds of things, but to stop and think about, how did people deal with bigger issues a decade ago, a century ago, multiple centuries ago? And it makes you start thinking a little bit differently about everything you're doing, everything you're seeing.
Yeah, well, I think of people being different than I am, but really they're not.
No.
They're not. You know, we're maybe a little more technologically advanced, but people have the same feelings and pursue the same goals. Tell us about the books that you've written, and you've written four, my understanding.
Yes.
And
Yes.
Where are they available? And you could see them right here.
Yes. Well, all three of them are available directly from the Avon Lake Historical Society. We do have a supply of these books.
Okay.
But you can also get the Lakeshore Cemetery book at Barnes & Noble, and of course you can buy it on Amazon. The other two you can also buy on Amazon. The one in the middle, the Avon Lake Story Continues, that was written during the bicentennial and in celebration of the bicentennial.
Understand.
It's kind of a sequel to Milburn Walker's original Avon Lake Story. And if you notice the cover and even the print inside and the font, Barb Cagley of our own
library
here. Well, she's actually the city.
Yep, correct.
She put that together because she was the head of our Bicentennial Committee. She did an outstanding job of duplicating the style of Milburn Walker's book, the colors, the fonts, the everything. I thought it was wonderful.
Yeah, it was a nice sequel.
She did with that. So that one is also, as I said, available from Avon Lake Historical Society, but that one is part of our bicentennial celebration, was donated to the Kiwanis.
I see.
The Kiwanis sell that one they're $10 a piece, and the money that is generated from the sales of that book goes to support the Key Club at the high school.
Oh, okay.
Which is the Kiwanis group.
Well, that's great.
High school students, so that they can get scholarships to go to conventions and conferences for Key Club events.
Avon Lake Kiwanis.
Yes.
Understand.
Yes.
Well, to talk a little bit about the books, the content of the books, tell us about the Mansion Speakeasy and the McGinty murder.
All right. Well, those two are stories from socialites and scofflaws. Love the title, scofflaw.
I like it.
It defines itself, doesn't it?
Yeah.
So those stories are both in that book. The mansion, the Speakeasy Mansion, although it was called a mansion, it wasn't truly a mansion like you and I would think of Millionaire's Row in Cleveland.
Understand.
It was just a large house. I'm sure it was impressive for its time.
Okay.
And it was owned by a man named Neil Rudolph. The location of this building was right where we are right now.
Oh, okay.
Essentially, Avon Lake Library
was built
site.
Right
yes,
there.
The Riddell house was here. In the base, it was a large house, as I said. In the basement was set up to look very much like a restaurant or cafe with tables and seating. And there were rumblings that Mr. Riddell was doing something more than just entertaining his friends and neighbors in the basement. So on 3 separate occasions, the prohibition officers raided this place.
Okay.
And they always came away with what they were looking for. On one occasion, there were 5,000 bottles of beer.
Wow.
Yeah, and 150 gallons of unbottled beer in Mr. Riddell's basement.
I see. So it's more than personal use.
Yeah, it became obvious once they got the goods. So 3 times, as I said, he was raided. The first 2 went in front of a justice of the peace, got a slap on the hands, a substantial fine, which benefits the city. Now you know why justices of the peace want to keep those cases in their jurisdiction. But the 3rd time, because he was a repeat offender now, actually went to a jury trial.
Okay.
And oddly enough, the jury just couldn't seem to agree on a verdict.
I see. They had sampled the beer? Maybe?
I'm not sure what they did, but they came away unable to agree on a verdict. And for whatever reason, the judge didn't feel it necessary to order another trial.
Okay.
Now, there's been lots of speculation and rumor about what was going on with the judge and the jury. But the upside for Avon Lake was Mr. Riddell moved out of town, and at least he wasn't here anymore.
Okay,
so
understand.
It was a benefit.
So he moved out of town, and the mansion...
Yeah, it's gone.
Okay.
Yeah. Burned down, knocked down, razed. I don't know how it was taken.
I see. What about the McGinty murder?
McGinty would have taken place after Prohibition had ended.
Okay.
And now, of course, Prohibition has created an illicit industry.
Okay.
And all these people have lost their jobs, so to speak.
I see.
They've got to move on to another, gambling.
Okay.
So Mr. McGinty was simply a lookout for bookies.
Okay.
He must have stepped into the wrong territory or sold to the wrong buyers, and he made
upset someone
very unhappy. And his body was found in a car, his corpse rather, was found in a car along Lake Road here in Avon Lake.
Oh.
He had been stabbed with something that appeared to be an ice pick or similar to an ice pick, stabbed in the face, in the shoulders, in the chest.
Oh.
And his hat, his derby hat, was yanked down over his face.
I see.
Inside of the derby hat were receipts from games.
I see.
It was apparently a murder that was not the first of its style.
Okay.
But rather a message from what everyone referred to as the Mayfield Gang. I guess it was a particular style of message that this gang
to send a message,
yes.
Use the ice pick.
The interesting thing about that story is jurisdiction, Lorain versus Cuyahoga County. Lorain County said, he's one of your guys. Investigate and prosecute. And Cuyahoga said, no. The corpse was in Avon Lake.
That's right.
It's one of yours. You investigate.
Nobody wanted to
Nobody wanted it. Ultimately, it wasn't investigated and nobody was prosecuted.
I see. So there was a problem with jurisdiction. Well, I guess no one wanted, it was a hot potato.
Very hot potato.
Tell me this, do you speak to the dead during the performance of the Theater of the Dead?
We don't speak to the dead, we speak through the dead, or rather they speak through us.
I see.
We dress in costume. Each of us takes on the persona of someone who's buried in Avon Lake Cemetery.
Okay.
Comes out into this theater in the round and tells that person's story in the first person.
Okay. So now where does this take place, the reenactment?
We had been doing those at the Folger House.
I see.
Although we are, if COVID allows, we are looking to move it to a bigger venue, and I've already written a play that we want to do. It's called A Night at the Black Whale Inn.
Okay.
And you can tell I have a passion for the Prohibition era, probably.
I see.
Right?
You're doing it again.
Yes, that's the theme.
Okay. All right. Well, good luck with that.
Thank you.
When do you think that'll take place, or there's no plans?
Well, right now I'm kind of hoping that March might be a good month for it, and I say
we'll be done with COVID, and
yeah, hopefully we'll be done. And also, there's just not a lot going on in March that's fun.
Okay,
and draws a crowd, and we're going to make this fun, and we hope to draw a crowd.
I'm sure it'll be well attended when it does take place. In your opinion, what's making sense and what isn't?
I found a quote that I felt fit that just perfectly. And this is that quote. Working hard for something we don't care about is called stress. Working hard for something we love is called passion. Doesn't make any sense to work for stress, but it makes a lot of sense to work for your passion.
Wow, that's great. Where did you, what is that quote from?
You know what? I don't know. And it's anonymous. It's not attributed to anyone. So whoever wrote it, I'm sorry. I'd love to give you credit.
Okay, anyone seeing us, if you know the source of that quote, let us know. But thank you, Sherry. Thank you for watching. Please give us your feedback on the show. You'll see email addresses at the bottom for both myself and for Sherry. You can ask us questions. Also, if you'd like to be on the show or know someone who's as interesting as Sherry is and wants to be on the show, please send us their contact information. And remember that seatbelts save lives. Thank you very much.
The preceding program was presented to you by a community producer. The statements, views, and opinions expressed were not necessarily those of ALC TV or the City of Avon Lake.